Welcome to the ADAS Empowered Podcast, the show where collision repair pros, calibration techs, insurers, and OEMs come together to stay ahead of the curve. Each episode, we'll dive into the latest advanced driver assistance systems, exploring emerging technologies, calibration best practices, and evolving industry standards. Whether you're in the shop, in the field, or in the boardroom, we're going to be the go to source for your thought leadership, collaboration, and real world insights to drive safer and more efficient repairs. Let's get empowered together. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joel Adcock with Revv. I'm the Director of Partnerships here. Kicking off our next episode for the ADAS Empowered Community Podcast. Appreciate everybody that subscribed at this particular point. This is now our third installment of a podcast episode. If you have any questions about where to find the previous episodes, feel free to go out to our community. There'll be a link at some point we can share with you, and feel free to watch and view the previous podcasts. But want to introduce our next guest today, esteemed Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Revv, Adi Bathla. Adi, great to have you here, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you for the intro, Joel. Great to be here as well. I'm loving these series and glad to be here. At Rev, we are, as you know, navigating really amazing tailwinds, um, tailwinds that are really amplifying opportunity for the company. I think government mandates on AEB and manufacturers equipping vehicles with all sorts of permutations of technology and industry really um, navigating and also um, helping the industry go through all this change. And change can be very positive if you're navigating it properly. And blessed to be contributing to that ethos at Rev.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a great place to be. Obviously, it's a great company. I don't want to necessarily get into the grand specifics of exactly what Rev does. I mean, we can talk about that at a different time. But more of what I want to focus on is, part of our conversation is really to start off here is really that journey of your family's background in the automotive space in Houston to I kind of know the story, so I have that intel and insight. But for our audience here, and I know your network within the industry has expanded the depth and bandwidth of people that you know now. But I think for the people that may not necessarily know who Adi Bathla is and sort of your journey and like the story of that aha moment of like the where Reb was born to meeting the co-founder Rashmi and to that beta version to where it's at now. Like walk us through what that looks like. I mean, where did it start and how did we get to this particular point?
Yeah, absolutely. I might take you a little bit further back, if that's okay.
I'd love to. Yeah. Goes back as far as you need to.
Awesome. So, my personal journey, I was a teenager when I had built this space tech prototype for NASA, which ended up becoming this movie Elysium. Matt Damon starred in it. And at a very young age, I got the entrepreneurial bug planted in me. Um, and got myself a full ride to Brown and started my journey there. I tried building many companies, VR products, marketplaces, failed, learned. And post college, threw myself in high growth startups. I was always surrounded by entrepreneurs. My little brother is a founder CEO. Um, Some of my closest friends are multi time founders as well. And the values that I was brought up with were bring technology to industries that still run on pen and paper, where technology doesn't exist, and don't chase money, provide value to society, and the rest follows. So that was the ethos that I carried while I was building technology products at high growth startups and Fortune 500 companies, really understanding the user empathy, having empathy for the user, and building for the users. The auto industry, um, I stumbled upon the auto industry back in 2019. I have some family in Houston, Texas. They run auto parts distribution businesses nationwide. They also have repair facilities that work with dealerships as well. And when I got amalgamated into the industry, I was just a kid in a candy store looking at how much there is to build and how much things are pen and paper. And in 2022, I started really solving the pain point of my family, um,
Mm,
and started building a parts procurement solution. Simultaneously, I was hopping shop to shop, meeting body shops, mechanical shops, owners of used car dealerships, and giving everybody my phone number. If you have a problem, please reach out to me, and I'm here to help. And there's one phone call that completely changed the game for me. And this friend of a repair shop owner we were servicing back then calls and says, just repaired a car, the lane change malfunction, driver got into an accident and
mm.
brought the car back. He was worried he was going to get sued. That sparked a series of discovery items, me hopping shop to shop, really understanding that everybody has this problem. It used to be one in four cars. Now it's three in four cars. And the industry is really scrambling to find a solution. I dug deeper and found out that there are government mandates that are powering how fast cars are becoming computers on wheels. Turns out more than 98% of net new vehicles being manufactured back in 2018, AAA did the study, had these features equipped in them. And now more than 94% of vehicles on the road have AEB equipped in them. And consumers love it. But repair becomes an afterthought.
Mhm.
Your average technician that is used to working on the fender, the bumper, the quarter panel is now expected to do work that is akin to a skilled engineer with mats, lasers, and targets. It's a massive tectonic shift in the way we repair cars and really happened overnight. It's a huge pain point for the industry. And that was screaming to me. The tailwinds were screaming to me, and net new technology that didn't exist before 2022 came into being, and all that concatenated to become the magic that Rev is today.
When you look back at that original concept that you sat down with Rashmi and however that initial beta came out, and from that, the company's a little over 2 years old. From that particular point to where it's at now, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced, and what are some of the greatest accomplishments that you think at this particular point, being that the company is relatively young, but what's been, big barriers that you thought you might not be able to get through, but then at the same time, by virtue of getting through those barriers, like what has that led to in terms of different opportunities for where, Rev as a company, but as an industry leader can obviously continue to push the narrative in terms of additional resources and help where there's a lot of gaps in knowledge and information.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great question. I think there have been a lot of painful moments, and going through pain with a huge smile on my face because that's the journey that I've consciously taken up. Um, but two distinct um, moments come to my mind as the biggest forces and the hardest transition points or pain points that I've personally been through so far. The first one is once you've discovered a problem, actually taking the product to market and kickstarting the company, the 0 to 1 journey. And the second one is transitioning from founder to a founder and CEO and building the company. I'll expand upon the first one. The first one, the 0 to 1 journey, specifically for Rev, when I discovered the pain point, we sprinted to get the solution to market. It was an extremely painful journey, and market timing is extremely important for the success of a company. And we had to get the product in the hands of the users and out in the market as soon as possible. That journey looked something like I was reaching out to shops across the country really cold emails and showcasing a bare bones version of the product to really understand how dire of a need it is and get the responses to how we were building the product. And that initial point uh, gave us a lot of feedback, a lot of ammo around the fact that there's a dire need. It proved the point that the industry badly needs this problem solved. And through that sprint, we had to ask the industry to collaborate with us. We had to ask the industry to really be very intimate with us so that we can get the product to the sophistication that was necessary to take it to market. For that, I owe this to my early champions. So I definitely encountered some really amazing people early in the journey who offered to help. And I remember this one phone call where I asked if they're willing to help me build this product, and they said, come out here. And the next thing you know, I took a flight and I showed up at their shop.
Took them up on the offer, obviously.
I took them up on the offer, and I really lived in that shop and tried to download their brains, because as much of a technical challenge it is taking this product to market, it's also a domain challenge. What we found out really early on was that we put a product together, we put the database together, we also put a user experience together, only to find out that the product was barely usable. The reason was not just data concatenation, but it was also about the interpretation of the data, which lived in the heads of highly trained technicians. Um, and what that meant was really downloading their brains in person, really living in the shops and baking that into the architecture of the products. And then we had to go through a lot of constraints like this is not scalable. We have to ingest data and this knowledge from really the heads of the brains of the technicians really, really fast. And wherever there's constraint, the mindset goes into how do we jump through that roadblock, and quickly found out that technicians who use the products have to make sure that the diagnostic output is very proper. And we built feedback loops within the products. And now that has evolved into more than 200,000 repairs being processed through the platform every single day, and many, many data points that the product is absorbing, which updates the intelligence of the product. It's really a data problem, so it has to be kept up to date. So what started off as endless sleepless nights, it was I counted hours, three average 3 hours of sleep per night since 2022 till just about 9 months ago.
Not to
And
get personal, but you had an episode where you had a health concern. I mean, it's that's how deeply invested you were in this.
yeah, there was a through that 0 to 1 journey, really getting the product to market and actually making it scalable. It was a very stressful time. I ended up in the emergency room multiple times. My arm got locked once, and they performed all sorts of tests and had no idea, and they concluded that it's just stress. So it was
The
definitely a
trivial
very
question
arduous
was,
journey.
how much are you working, Mr. Bathla? Way too much. But it's passion, right? I mean, that's what you saw in the initial concept. I mean, I was privy to seeing the beta, from at my previous employer, and I think we walked away from that initial conversation with encouraging you to continue to build this out because we knew that this would be something.
In collision repair, ADAS calibration isn't optional, it's essential. But identifying what needs to be calibrated, documenting it, and getting paid, that's where it gets tricky. Revv simplifies the entire process with built-in integrations for CCC, Mitchell, and Audatex. It instantly flags required calibrations, generates the documentation, and helps ensure faster reimbursement. Turn miscalibrations into real revenue. Visit RevHQ, that's REVVHQ.com, and book your demo today.
Going to some of those early champions, I can imagine there may be days where you said, "Is this really worth it?" You know, we clearly built something that isn't usable, but grateful that those champions were able to kind of come on board and say, "Look, we're willing to help you out because we see a ton of opportunity and we see the ambition, obviously, in what you were doing." Did you ever have that sense of like, knowing everything you knew in terms of like all the data, all the validation, seeing, the pen to paper, as you say, industry, but yet at the same time understanding that there are going to be lots of challenges, lots of headwinds at the 0 to 1. Was there a time where you felt like maybe pulling back and saying maybe this isn't the proper avenue for me to go in my career?
There were and there continue to be a lot of moments of tests and trials. Um, the journey of building a high growth startup, 0 to 1 journey, the 1 to 10, 10 to 40, 40 to 100. Every single journey brings really difficult moments, and oftentimes these challenging moments happen multiple times in a day. There are multiple lows, and sometimes there's no high, and you just have to carry yourself through a long wave of lows. But I firmly believe that things don't really get easier, they only get harder. You just build a thicker skin, and you know how to deal with harder problems better. And through those times, I think there were some guiding principles. The customer love was definitely one of the top ones. How starting from the early champions to hundreds of customers every month today, um, we see that customers feel that they are growing with Rev, and Rev is helping them navigate this massive change, the biggest change that the automotive industry has experienced in the past 25 years. And we are growing with them, and we're in it together. And they tell us all other things that they want us to build, which gets me even more excited. Um, and I think experiencing that every single day gets you through those lows and all the lows to come for the next years. Not many people can wake up and feel that there are hundreds of businesses that are being impacted positively, SMB businesses that have dreams like putting their kids through college or taking their family on vacation, who live month to month on razor thin margins, and you're helping them fulfill those goals. And folks are waking up and running on something that you have built from ground up. I think those are some of the emotions and um, some of the fruits of your labor that you experience every single day that gets you through those lows and many more.
Yeah, being able to recognize that there's, constant challenge no matter where you're at in the journey it's an omnipresent fact, right? And developing that thick skin, um, listening to some of the negative commentary that may be out there that doesn't necessarily exist per se, but I think you have to be cognizant of it and absorb it and take criticism where it needs to be. But then truly, like you say, wrapping your arms around the customers that truly love the product that's been built and embracing them. We've done some phenomenal case studies. I think the overall experience has been beyond positive. I mean, I'm lucky to have my ear on the ground in a lot of different directions, and I hear great things. And it's not to like continue to champion Rev above all else at this particular point, but it is what it is. And I think that's just a testament to those early lessons that you learned of, again, that 0 to 1 philosophy, recognizing that we got to go back to the proverbial drawing board, really kind of take what we did and I don't want to say throw it in the trash, but there were some basic concepts that maybe you could pull, but yet it was getting those champions to say, we want to work with you, but this has got to change. This has got to completely shift and move. So you've got a background really in the product world. I mean, how did your experience in previous companies you were part of um, influence really your approach to, you know, when you went back to the drawing board and kind of working through that next layer, like the next versions of Rev? I mean, how did you rely on your experience from the product side? And there's a lot of influence, I think, even now in terms of like the product in because of your experience on that side of it. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a great one. So my journey building technical products really anchored on 0 to 1 problems. So things like building marketplaces in urban areas, and building for global supply chain products as well. And my past experiences involved really looking at users that are more quote unquote offline. So it always anchored on digital meets physical. So in Rev's case, that is the digital platform is at the end of the day helping the shops and technicians put safe cars on the road and repair the cars in the real world. So that digital meets physical lens was very transformative to thinking about how to meet the offline user base where they are in their workflow, for example. Instead of asking them to do things that are things your way, you want to meet them where they have been for the past decades, basically. Um, it was the same sentiment building supply chain products for folks in the warehouses or shipping and packaging side of things, all the way to the consumer. And similar ethos applies here as well, where in Rev's example, um, the shops and technicians utilize their core infrastructure elements like scan tools or estimatics. So instead of pulling the users and owners and technicians out of what they're used to doing, we're building Rev in a way that we meet them where they are and put insights in their fingertips and evolving Rev in a way that it is done for you. And again, the beauty of carrying that mindset and doing it in this day and age where some of the net new technology powered by artificial intelligence has really skyrocketed and carries the core ethos of being the co-pilot, if you will, uh, comes into play as well. And that is being baked into the evolution of the product. But the mindset remains the same. We want to, customer holds the key, and we want to build for the customer rather than thinking that we're the smartest person in the room and we're going to build something that people are going to adopt and give up what they've been doing. It's really listening to the customer. It's really internalizing the fact that they hold the key and what type of customer are you serving. That's how you want to build products. That's the lens that you want to have.
I think meeting the customers where they're at, I think that's the greatest philosophy that anybody can really do in terms of leading a business or leading product is figuring out where the customers live and how to adapt the product to meet where they're at so that it's not disruptive to their workflow, but it enhances their workflow if nothing else. It creates efficiencies, it checks a lot of boxes. And I think you mentioning, listening to your customers, they're the drivers of where the product should go. And I think that's, when you walk around the hallways at Rev or you talk to people and Zoom calls and what have you, I mean that's foundational to what's really driving this is constant feedback, both positive, neutral, commentary, constructive, whatever you want to call it. And I think those are some things that we've allowed our customer base to come to us with and say, "Hey, we love Rev because of this," or Rev would be great if it did that. And I think your philosophy is if you could help other leaders of companies, that's something you would recommend, correct? I mean, you gotta reach out to your customers, say, "Where do we need to meet you at?" Um,
Yeah,
I
there's
think
an art to it, Joe. I what I experienced in my life, and I saw some folks do this really, really well, and I saw folks all the way on the other side of the spectrum, basically. And the customer empathy evolves in practice. What that looks like is listening more than speaking, for example. So I've seen some really amazing builders almost almost squeeze the pain point out of the customers in such an organic fashion that your users and your customers are telling you exactly their pain points, diving deeper into the pain points, telling you how they envision their pain points to be solved. And that itself is gold. uh, you want to anchor on that rather than your own thought process around how you would craft something to solve a pain point that you don't fully understand.
Love that. I think that's really the methodology that certainly works best. And I think, as you've transitioned, as you mentioned sort of at the top of the call, from, you were one of the first two employees, obviously, as co-founder, you were chief product, you were head of sales, you were head of, customer support and all these things, and have to migrate now obviously into a completely different role in terms of leadership. But, what are some of the core principles that have guided you and when building and scaling tech teams? Like, what advice would you give to other leaders out there?
Yeah, that was the second hardest transition that I was sharing earlier in the call.
Yeah.
And two principles is the answer here from my personal journey. Number one is hire people that are better than you. Hire people that are better than you at engineering, better than you at products, better than you at go to market. As a CEO, if I am the smartest person in the room, I have failed at my job,
Mhm.
basically. There comes one more challenge on top of it. When the company is growing really, really fast, it's break your neck growth and you're hiring. You will almost most likely run into this problem where you need the person yesterday. And not only are you hiring, you're also doing everything with your hands. And when you do end up hiring them, there's a period of a rough that you have to go through, which is actually uh, onboarding them while running those functions as well. So it's triple the threat. It's very tempting to hire the person which who you're not feeling a strong yes towards, but you want to hire them anyway because you're going through so much pain, because you're not just managing their function right now, but you're managing so many other functions. You're really, as you said, the head of sales, the head of product, and investors and press and everything. Um, but the hardest part here is holding your ground on keeping the bar for talent really, really high. It is definitely a very hard thing to do in practice, but that has been the key to success so far. Um, and with that comes the whole second most difficult part of the journey, which is you're so in tune with doing every single thing with your hands that now you have to work through other people. So you have to completely shift the mindset and get into delegation mode. And that comes with its own pain points. But those two principles have been my governing principles.
Do those relate, do you think, as you get into like the Rev customer base with independent repair shops and sublet calibration companies, those principles, do you think they relate? I mean, there's always conversations around technician shortage, training of technicians to get them up to speed and doing it in a way that's sufficient. Yet, we're not necessarily trying to hold their hand. But I mean, I guess my question would be, like, what advice would you give shop operators as far as the nuance of repairs is becoming even more further down with the complexity of ADAS? Like, what advice would you give a shop operator at this point if you had 5 minutes to spend with them?
For shop operators, I would give the advice of immersing yourself in with folks that are at the forefront of this movement, uh, doing your reference checks, doing your research, because there's no one size fits all recipe here. I can be a shop that doesn't have a sublet provider around me, and I can be a shop that has a sublet provider around me. I can be a shop that wants to bring things in house, and I can be a shop that wants to do a mix of in-house and sub network, or I can be a shop that is not in tune with the fact that calibrations are the new normal now. Cars have become computers on wheels, and repairs require much more than they did a few years ago. So wherever you are in that spectrum, I would absolutely encourage to attend webinars, industry events, read up on blog posts or articles that are outlining this change, and also just talk to shops and folks who are navigating this ecosystem just like yourself, around your area or vicinity, basically. Uh, there's a lot of information that you want to gather, and you want to keep the breadth of information as broad as possible so that you get enough data points to make an informed decision about your particular situation.
Great advice, and I think it goes without saying there are a lot of phenomenal leaders, resources, people in the industry of influence that are willing to, take an email, a phone call, a meeting with anybody that's looking for a helping hand. And I know I see this, and I know we've talked about it. It's all too often we see folks that have a little bit of ambition in this industry, and they're asking for questions or asking for some information, and they're getting uh, bullied, for lack of a better way of saying it, which is really unfortunate to see. And I'd say that for anybody that's out there listening to this, if you're in a position where you're looking for some additional resource or connectivity, there's some great associations out there. There are some phenomenal folks running podcasts that are, they provide valuable information. There are a lot of groups doing webinars. There are different communities. There's different ways of attaching to those resources now. And I think what's uh, really interesting about like what your thought process with is as far as like launching our ADOS empowered community. My understanding is you really didn't give it a second thought. It was like, yeah, this is something we need to do, and we've got close to 1,000 members. But what has launching that community podcast and the community itself, and really the broader vision for Rev, like how does it fit, and what was the purpose of it, and really what was that initial response that you put into it in terms of like, hey, we'd love to do this. What are your thoughts, Adi?
Yeah, I was bullish from day zero about the community, and I personally related to the community as well, because not too long ago, when I was starting the company, um, there was information that I personally wanted access to, that were in the highly trained technicians' brains, that I wish was democratized. But I really had to dig deeper and deeper and deeper to find those people who carried the same ethos as I had, and giving back to the industry, and really knowledgeable people who have actually gone through various certification programs and have done these things for decades. So I personally felt the need for that knowledge myself. And as I've built the company and I've seen much more flavor of the customers that we are servicing, what I see is that there is such a big need of collaboration, information sharing, education in the industry, and it's so nuanced. There are experts that run into issues who also need guidance. And now think about the shop that is just starting to perform these calibrations. Put yourself in their shoes, and just think about what they might be navigating, how lost they would feel. So the community was really to bring everybody who is starting on this journey all the way to the experts together, so that everybody can share, collaborate, and really democratize the information around their personal flavor and ways they're navigating this change. Um, and it's really to benefit the industry at the end of the day. That's been the top objective of the community.
That's great. I think again, it just speaks volumes as far as like your foresight into the industry as a whole, needing additional resources, education, just another place for somebody to go and ask questions, and it be sort of like I say, a safe environment where it's everybody had to start somewhere. Nobody woke up with a diagnostic tablet in their lap, as I like to say. I mean, we all had to start somewhere. I'm by no means an ADOS expert. I don't pretend to be one. I've got a little bit of knowledge about this stuff, but whenever I can be a resource, I don't necessarily have all the information, but I certainly have enough in terms of where I can point people to help, answer their questions and things like that. And again, I think that community aspect is going to continue to evolve and grow, and it's such a blessing to have as part of the Rev family. And for everybody that does participate in it, we encourage you to ask questions and use it as a forum to continue to build the next generation of technicians. Because as we talked about, the complexity of vehicles, it's going to continue to evolve. There's more mandates coming down. We're going to need additional, more trained technicians that, even as they become more seasoned, will need a spot to go to learn, validate, understand, and educate, and everything else. So let's continue to push that positive narrative going forward. Um, Kind of a broad-based question to kind of wrap things up here for you, but where do you see, you mentioned like the AEB mandate coming down in a couple of years. On your crystal ball, what is the next 2 to 3 years, maybe even out to 5 years, really look like for the repair community and industry, and then for the ADOS niche of the industry as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I've seen the industry navigate this change and transform from the work they do in the past 24 months across hundreds of customers, thousands of rooftops that we have today, uh, what we foresee is that in 3 to 5 years, specialization is going to get more and more specialized while we see shops bringing more and more of the capabilities to do a full and a complete repair in-house. And with this tailwind, uh, we not only see the need to exponentially educate and equip the shops themselves in this endeavor, simultaneously equip the specialists in this endeavor as well. But what we also see is creating this collaboration network. It needs infrastructure to actually come to life and thrive. And that's where we're headed as a company, as well as one of our main value propositions. So that's definitely where I see the industry heading. Another area where I'm seeing this go is the repairs of cars, a complete repair on the just a chassis and the components of the car that we've been repairing since decades, but the electronics, the sensors, cameras, modules of the vehicle as well, the total repair is getting more and more normalized. It's getting more normalized from all stakeholders involved in the repair. We see the shops, we see insurers, we see consumers, and in 3 to 5 years, it's only going to continue evolving exponentially when it comes to normalization, because this is the net new. And as as much as we see the industry uh, agreeing and adopting to this net new, it is only going to overtake the perception of the industry, this normalization, at an exponential pace in the next 3 to 5 years.
It's going to continue to change and evolve. There's no question about it. Being able to pinpoint exactly what it's going to look like is going to be a difficult task. But I think for the folks that are gallantly preparing themselves now, with further education, further resources, brushing up on repair procedures, making sure everything is dialed in, and pardon the pun, but really their shop is calibrated, because I think in the very near future, just about every vehicle you see come across your shop floor will have some sort of ADAS system on it. It will need some sort of additional subset of repairs that are outside of the normal scope from what we saw 5, 10 years ago. So um, I am in complete agreement as far as like where these next few years go. So with that, any final thoughts, comments? Otherwise, we will wrap things up here. I certainly appreciate your time. Um, if not, we can go ahead and close, but I'll give the final few minutes here to the floor to you, sir.
The last thing, Joel, I'd say is we talked about the change that is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, but this is a lot of change. We see things changing on a monthly, even daily basis to some
Yeah.
extent. So I really feel for the industry, and back to what excites me to build for the industry, going through the pain that comes with it every single day, is the fact that we're building Rev, and we're building something to be able to react to all this change as fast as possible to equip the industry from really all angles, be it product, infrastructure, education, access, and that is our main goal. So, my last comment would be, if you are starting on this journey all the way to you are navigating the changes that come with being an expert, definitely give us a shout, give me a shout, give the team a shout. So we're able to really understand the exact pain point that you're going through to bake into what we're building, and all the access and connections that we are creating, and the education that we are empowering the industry with as part of our roadmap to help you out. So we're definitely here for you.
Absolutely. I'll echo that sentiment as well, that if I can be a resource, or anybody here at Rev, or anybody that we know in terms of our connections, feel free to reach out. This is the time to do it, and really start to continue to learn, continue to adjust, and like you say, things are changing almost week to week now. It's pretty incredible how the swiftness of how fast things move within this industry. I know it's cliche, but it's omnipresent. With that, I will wrap us up here. I do appreciate your time, sir. Um, Again, appreciate everybody subscribing to the podcast. Link will be included. And if you have any topics, any suggestions, any ideas, feel free to reach out to me. I can be easily found on the community or social channels. We're looking for really anything related that can help with additional knowledge and education throughout the industry. So with that, Adi, again, appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Joel.